Hi, I'm JT. Welcome to the Movie Club. Today we're going to celebrate lockdown by looking at one of the newest movies that's themed about this very situation that we're stuck in. It's originally a Spanish language film, but you can see it in English. It's called The Platform, or El Hoyo, and it's directed by a gentleman whose name I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, but his Golda. Shout out to you, sir. Quality film in terms of its approach. It's an interesting sort of flick. From the broadest point of view, it centers around a man called Goreng, who signs up to basically go into a prison-like structure in an attempt to quit smoking. And things turn bad from there. Let's just put it that way. So it's an interesting premise. Can I get first reactions as we go around the group? Tobias, what did you think?
I didn't really like it. I'm afraid I didn't get it. That's what my biggest fear is. I don't think I got this movie, and I hope to learn something by talking with you guys about it to see if there's something that I didn't understand, or if it's just like the movie's just doing its own thing.
Tobias, it's the most ham-fisted metaphor that you could imagine. How did you
That's
not
what
get
I'm
it?
afraid. Yeah, that's
I
what
think
I'm
you got
afraid of.
it.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Is it just like so in my face that I'm hoping that I'm looking for something else? I'm like, surely that's not what this is about.
One of those movies you don't want to look at too deeply. It's because you don't find anything else. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah,
Frankly,
well, until it gets to the end and it thinks it's something else, right?
Not being really hungry.
Yeah,
it is a movie that may make you hungry. The central conceit of the film, I guess, is you have a prison built on 200 plus levels. Let's say, just not to spoil the mystery. And it starts out at the top with the titular platform loaded with the most amazing spread of food, and each duo on each level gets to have their fill for 2 minutes, and then the platform goes down to the next level. So an interesting comment thematically, I guess. It talks about sort of the balance between rich and poor, and those above are sort of destined to literally, in some cases, shit on those below. But those themes were very broad. Can we talk a little bit about the thematic approach of the film? Rehana, what did you think?
So the whole premise behind this movie is the way society is structured, where the rich essentially get all of the good stuff, and by the time the scraps trickle down to the bottom, nobody gets anything, and it gets to the point where it turns perfectly normal people into horrible man-eating monsters. Again, thematically, super ham-fisted. It seems to be one of those movies that takes a ridiculous concept and then takes it to its or even illogical extreme. It kind of reminded me of, do you guys remember that Chinese parable about heaven and hell where everyone has the 7-foot chopsticks? Do you guys remember? Are you familiar with that story?
No.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Consider us ignorant.
I'm not familiar with many Chinese parables, Rahana, but go on.
It's probably not actually Chinese, but it's like one of those things you find in fortune cookies that are made in Western countries. But it's basically a guy decides to visit heaven and he decides to visit hell. And he goes to hell and everyone's sitting around this beautifully spread table and they all have 7-foot chopsticks. And every time they try to eat something, the things drop out because it's 7-foot long chopsticks. And then he goes to heaven and it's exactly the same thing, but everyone's sitting around quite happily and contentedly and fat. And it's because in hell, everyone tried to feed themselves, but in heaven, everyone was feeding each other. So there's this like moral lesson to this entire thing that they just keep hammering at you for the entire movie. They're like, you're all just nice to each other. Maybe we won't have to cannibalize one another towards the end.
Interesting. Sid, you're a sort of history buff. Did you see parallels between this and trickle-down economics?
Well, I mean, it kind of, it's not so much trickle-down economics, but more just the fact that, like, broadly speaking, the system of capitalism is the thing that's critiquing here. But it's a way that, like, I don't think it's particularly new in this film at all, because, like, we've seen movies like High Rise with World's Most Handsome Man, Tom Hiddleston, and, like, movies like that, which have already approached this topic in the exact same way. And it's all a Snowpiercer even, like, you know, making your way to the front of the train, and it's horizontal as opposed to vertical. But it's like, it's something that's just really, it'd be hard to miss. It's so in your face. And for me, that kind of like spoiled the movie a bit, because I feel like the payoff didn't do justice to what it was talking about, because it's such a a much more nuanced and difficult concept to understand. So,
Did it feel a little bit
know.
to you where they just kept hammering home the same? I mean, I think that's why I was a little turned. Like, I enjoyed the entire movie. I just loved watching how much crazier and crazier it could get. But then at the same time, it felt like they were telling me what I was supposed to feel as opposed to allowing me to feel what I should be feeling.
But that's the thing, though. Like, it makes you kind of voyeuristic, and like it makes you look forward to seeing how fucked up the next thing can be, in a way which is like contrary to the film's like moral and thesis. Like, we're not meant to want to like relish in seeing how messed up things get, but that's ultimately what you look for. Like, it's less about.
As soon as that sausage dog appeared, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, like, it did miss the mark for me.
Toby?
I agree. I didn't miss the mark for me as well. I still sit here and think I didn't get something about the movie. Like, I feel like it's meant to have another layer to it, but it doesn't have it. Like, it's just like it's missing a piece of it, and I don't really understand. And it's kind of like super visually boring as well, right? Like, being in that cell and stuff like that. The whole movie is grey, and it's just like, okay, I at least need something to look at as well, other than just it's horribly violent and
So
just
do you
great.
remember a movie called The Bothersome Man? I think it was released 2010, and to illustrate how old this movie was, I borrowed it from a Blockbuster. And basically the aesthetics look a lot like this movie, and the theming behind it is kind of similar as well, where it's like, this is a grim reality and it's a normal dude trying to get through this grim reality. And when the movie first started, I was like, awesome, a movie that I remembered from 10 years ago, I get to watch something like that again. But because there's nothing to keep you thinking about it, it's just like, there are moments that are awesome, and then the rest of the movie for me is just forgettable.
But it's a movie that's also like, it's meant to be all about world building, but it doesn't give you any understanding of where this prison is, what the administration is, who the people on floor 0 are who are cooking the food. Like, it doesn't give you any of that, which means that, like, it's almost like the characters have no motivation to climb towards. Like, there's nothing aspirational other than just getting some more food, which I understand is the case for a lot of people. But like, for like someone who's watching this film, it just doesn't give you any context. And then the ending, which I won't try and spoil it, but the ending just kind of like comes out of nowhere. It's abrupt and it gives you no closure. And so like the entire time you just feel like you're in this like hollow like void. It doesn't feel like a place.
Let's, without spoilers, as you say, let's talk about the ending for a moment, because I found it sort of baffling in many ways. And I mean, not least from sort of a set design and practicality point of view. I mean, here you have a prison that goes down hundreds of levels and then just keeps going somehow.
But
was it a metaphor?
Was it a prison?
Well,
was it a prison though?
That's not clear, is it?
I can't go to jail and say, hey, I want to be locked away because I want to quit smoking for 6 months. And then they go, cool, we'll give you a diploma at the end of it. So that's something that I really struggled with as well, was like, what is this building? I don't understand what it is.
I feel like in this dystopian world that the movie is set in, like, everything would be hyper corporatized and everything would be a business. So if you want to go to prison and quit smoking, they'd let you. You just have to pay.
Right, but you have to really reach to get that. It's like the movie should kind of tell you that's the situation, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like I feel like that was intentional, that there was no world building outside of this prison, because if the entire thing is meant to be a metaphor for society as it currently is, then outside of society, nothing is supposed to exist, right? So maybe that's why they decided not to really give us any hints of what was outside.
It was like Cube in that way, I thought, the same sort of limited, visual approach, and that same, you don't know necessarily why they're there, whether they're telling the truth about why they're there, why they're allowed to keep certain cool and very dangerous implements, for instance. And I guess that leads me to the final question for the wrap up. If you were sort of to be sentenced or to go into such an environment as in the platform, what would be your one item? What would you take?
The Samurai Crow, or Samurai Plus, wasn't it? Oh,
that's Samurai Plus knife?
Yeah, like duct tape to my arm. Like, no one's getting that off me.
That's a good idea. I'd probably take that like never-ending packet of Tim Tams from
Ooh,
that
nice.
ad ages ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, do we know before we go in there what the food situation is like? Because I would take something preserved that I could slowly eat
Some jerky
over my-
perhaps, or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
See, I would take Batman's utility belt because I think the guy who had a rope had a good idea, but he didn't have the tools to actually get up there. If he had a little grappling hook and maybe some shark
Yeah.
repellent to get rid of the poopers on the next level, you know, you'd be out of there in 5
He should have
minutes.
taken. He should have taken one of those thief grappling hooks with a little burglar thing on the end
Exactly.
of the rope.
And did that guy know the place he was going into when no one else did? Because why else would he take a rope?
That's true. That's true.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
It sounds like the place had some notoriety because even when the guy wakes up, he's like, "Am I in the hole?" Like, if you're in a place that has a nickname, you know that people know vaguely that it's about some messed up shit. You know, like.
But that guy.
So I feel like people knew.
On there. That's just the biggest point of the thing in the movie that blew my mind was he wanted to be in there. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, why does he want to be there?
Associate degree. I didn't really understand that part.
Just go to university, bro. Like,
Yeah.
right? Just go to university, get a degree. It's got to be easier than
School of Hard Knocks, University of Life kind of business, I think.
that. Yeah.
That I think might be the learning from this film. Just go to university, bro. So even in this sort of lockdown time, we have to have some standards. So let's have a quick whip around the group. Would you recommend watching The Platform?
I would absolutely recommend it just so I could talk to someone about it afterwards because it's just like I watched it once. I'm not going to watch it again, but I would love to see other people's reactions to it.
What about yourself, Sid?
Well, look, it's not a movie I'd recommend. I think it kind of belies its low budget in the fact that it's not a very interesting movie to look at and there's not much going on visually. And then because there's not much going on visually, there is such a heavy reliance on the themes, which are just so like almost kindergarten in a way, and binary. So like it just missed both marks for me. And I found myself just watching it to see how messed up it could get, which is not a good motivation to watch a movie, I feel. So no, I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest.
Tobias, what about you?
I reckon I'm in the same boat as Sid. I couldn't recommend it. This movie for me begs me to question it at every turn. And after like 15 minutes in, when all I have is questions for a movie, that's a bad sign because you can't, if you're constantly questioning the movie, can you really enjoy it?
Yeah, and it gives you no fucking answers.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're the sort of person that wants answers from your movies, this is not the movie for you because it leaves a lot up in the air or down in a very, very deep hole.
It's not that good of a ride.
It's look, I would say because there is, everyone is locked down. If you're really searching for something that's going to make you feel better about the food you're eating tonight, particularly if you're on below about level 6, then look, there might be something in it for you. But look, that's it for this review of The Platform from the Movie Club. Remember to hit like and hit subscribe, and we'll be coming back at you soon from lockdown. This is the Movie Club, out.
Yeah.